All right, everyone. When I was asked to first come here, I was told that I should go ahead and give a presentation that I had already given before. But Japan was a very special place to me. Japan was a place that I spent 8 years of my life and where I started my own developer journey. So today I want to tell the story about my brief time living in Japan and how mobile technology allowed me to experience it without fear. But before we continue, I think I should tell you a little bit about myself. So who am I? I'm Kevin Chisholm, a technical program manager on the Dart and Flutter team at Google. My main focus on the teams are releases and infrastructure. To keep it simple, just imagine me as the DevOps person. I'm here to make sure that everything in our infrastructure is built, tested, and make sure that the quality is high whenever we do a Flutter release. So before I was afforded this humble opportunity to speak to all of you, I lived and worked in Yokosuka, Japan for 8 years. This loser right here was me. So this is me, a young and confused sailor in the United States Navy, traveling across the Pacific Ocean to Japan from a very small town in Texas. And just to put that into perspective, imagine the shock that I experienced when I first saw this. Please raise your hands if you know where this is. Does anybody know where this is? Yeah, I think this is one of the most famous places on Earth. So even after all these years, I'm still in shock and awe whenever I visit this crossing. But do you know what I felt before that? I felt fear. So I felt fear, dread. I was scared. I felt fear that I would offend Japanese culture or traditions. I felt fear that I would never understand the language. I felt fear that I would take the wrong train and end up not being able to find my way back home. I felt fear that I couldn't figure out how to even order food. But fortunately, there was a way to resolve all of these fears, and all I needed was a phone. It didn't take me long to realize that there was an entire ecosystem of apps that could help with the problems that I was facing. When it came to navigating the train system, Hyperdia became my lifeline, telling me everything I needed to know to navigate this labyrinth. When should I leave? When would I arrive? How much is it going to cost me? And what are the alternative routes? So no more missed connections, no more taking the local Keikyu line all the way from Yokosuka to Shinagawa Station. Hyperdia became my personal navigator. Though it could not help me navigate the fears of earthquakes, a natural disaster I never experienced before this, one app could. Does anybody know this app? Yeah, okay. So this app was awesome. It was called Irekuru Karu. This app was amazing. And let's face it, earthquakes were part of daily life in Japan and something that I just wasn't used to. This app gave me those crucial few moments of warning if I needed to take cover, if I needed to leave the building, or if I just needed to finish my cup of coffee before everything started shaking and it spilled everywhere. I refused to waste the precious coffee that I paid for because early in my time in the Navy, my pay was very low, which was another fear in its own. But Mercari had my back. This app was a treasure trove of unique and affordable secondhand goods. Suddenly, I could furnish my apartment with stylish finds, discover one-of-a-kind souvenirs, and even connect with local sellers. It was a digital flea market with a distinct Japanese flavor. But apps weren't just about practicalities. They were also about connection. Line became my window into Japanese communication culture, those expressive stickers, the group chats, the subtle nuance of emoji usage. It was a whole new language in itself, and it helped me build friendships and feel less like an outsider. From fumbling through basic Japanese with my Japanese dictionary, to ordering way too much Domino's pizza, to deciphering kanji with Google Translate, mobile technology became my constant companion, my guide, my translator, and even my mentor. It helped me navigate daily life, connect with people, and truly experience Japan beyond the tourist facade. After years of using these apps, it was time for me to give back. Having never wrote a line of code before in my life, I thought, can't be that hard. I was wrong. So I looked into building iOS apps, just to find out I need to pay $100 a year for an Apple developer account to publish apps. That's money I didn't have. I looked into building Android apps, but I didn't even have an Android phone and didn't plan on building for something that I didn't have myself. Well, all phones have browsers, so I guess I'll look into building web apps. And would you believe that Japan even had an influence in web development for me early on? I found this beautiful programming language made right here in Japan called Ruby. To say I was hooked would be downplaying it. For the next few years, I spent nearly every waking moment of my time outside of work building web apps for anything and everyone that could use one. And even building web apps that didn't need to be apps. I was implementing ideas at work, for my friends, and for myself. And I was doing it all so that I could give back. After years of building apps, getting comfortable with multiple languages and frameworks, and finally making more money, I decided to consider building mobile apps again. Then I found Dart and Flutter, a combination of language and framework with all the promise of letting me build both for iOS and Android at the time with a single code base. So now I don't have to learn Objective-C, Swift, Kotlin, or Java. Sounded too good to be true. They were pitching a lot of things for me. They were pitching a language that was familiar, easy to learn, fast, and powerful. They were pitching a language and framework with modern features such as async await, generics, and lambdas. They were telling me that they give you component libraries right out of the box, almost completely nullifying my ineptitude as a designer. It also gave me a rich suite of developer tools to fix my mistakes for me and stateful hot reload so I can immediately see changes that I made to my apps. I could go on and on about the benefits of Dart and Flutter that got me hooked, but what's the point? Everyone in this room took their time to come to a conference talking about this very thing. You don't need me to tell you that. Dart compiles natively to multiple platforms, including WebAssembly or that. Flutter is truly multi-platform, where your same code runs nearly everywhere. Or that Flutter is the most popular cross-platform framework in the world. Having said that, though my time in Japan ended, my journey has just begun. I left the Navy to join Google in 2020, where I was able to pursue my dream of joining the Flutter team. And that is where the real work for me started. Of all the things I talked about, you may think I forgot something very important. But let me talk about my favorite thing about Flutter: the community. We have a wonderful community that truly embraces the spirit of open source. And I want to give a big shout out to you all. But one person personally stands out to me. When I started writing our Flutter blogs on Medium, after every release, a Japanese member of the Flutter community reached out to me. If you're in the audience, could you stand up? Oh, there you go. Yeah, thank you. Everybody give a round of applause. Thank you. So he reached out to me. We have this wonderful community that embraces the spirit of open source. But when I started writing the blogs on Medium, after every release, this member reached out to me and asked, can I translate the blog? Opening up these changes for a large community that didn't read the blog in the native language it was written in. And I really appreciate that. This lovely community member has been responsible for translating our technical blogs to Japanese through his own volunteer effort. I cannot thank you enough for your contributions. So before I end this talk and wrap everything up, I have two things that I'd really want of all of you. The first thing, please don't tell my team that I mentioned Ruby. They absolutely hate when I talk about Ruby. So please don't do that. Keep that between us. And two, keep building beautiful and innovative mobile applications. This was the start of me. This helped me conquer my fear, and you never know who you'll be helping at the end. Thank you. Any questions? Go ahead. Say, could you? No, we do not have a Flutter team in Japan. We don't have any team members, but our team is worldwide, and if one of our team members decides to move to Japan, then we have Flutter team members in Japan. But at the same time, everybody in here is a Flutter team member in Japan. Just because we're in Google, it doesn't make us any difference than you all. You all contribute to the framework just as well. Any other questions? Ask away, I don't keep secrets. Go ahead.
I heard Google fired the Flutter team layoff.
I'm still working. I have a job still. No, I'm still here. No, Google did not fire the Flutter team. And I'll be honest with you, because this is a question a lot of people have. Did Google have layoffs? Yes. Did those layoffs touch every single team out there? They did, and it hurt. There's people that I worked with every single day that I spent my time with, that I got to meet their family, I got to meet their kids, that just lost their jobs, just disappeared like a Thanos snap from the Avengers. And it was rough, but that affected everybody at Google. It wasn't a targeted Flutter or what you see on the news, Python or anything like that. So yeah, we did see layoffs, but we also hired more at the same time. Thank you for your question. I mean, I'll take any more questions. I'm not scared of them. That's one thing I don't have a fear of. Say again? Could you speak up? Okay. Do you have microphones back for questioning? Thank you. It's okay. We're getting you a microphone.
What do you think is Flutter's library?
Competitors for Flutter.
Say again?
Rivals or competitors for Flutter.
Competitors for Flutter.
React Native.
Oh, goodness gracious.
What do you think Flutter's rivals?
Okay, see, rivals is a little pointed. I mean, because we're not going out there snapping, getting ready to go fist fight anybody in any of the other frameworks. But there's a lot to be here. And I think we have to look further than just mobile or cross-platform frameworks. If you look at things like WebAssembly is coming to a place where you can write with your own favorite toolkit, no matter what that toolkit is, and compile it down. So it no longer becomes, I need to write a specific language or use a specific framework. So there's a future where anything could be going to mobile, no matter what language. So I think the only thing that we consider competitors is not building up a large enough community, not building up a beautiful tool chain that helps everybody. Because at the end of the day, you want to build with the thing that's most convenient for you, the thing that makes you most productive. So no, we don't have any fights with React Native or like Xamarin or Maui or anything like that. Thank you for the question. You got a microphone coming your way. Hello?
In 3 months ago, some community have forked the Flutter as forked.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about it?
Oh, so what do I think about us getting forked by Flock? I don't think it's that big a bad thing. I think a lot of things get forked all the time. I don't think that there's any bad intent from Matt or Jesse. I think they just want to see the community have more say in things, and this is their way of trying to make it happen. Open source is open source for a reason. We don't say that we're open source and really fake it. We're open to forks and things like that. If they can figure out a way to make bringing commits to the Flutter framework easier for the community, I applaud them and I salute them along the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? We got one up front.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Can I have one question?
Go for it.
Sorry. Thank you. It's regarding the talk that you have, the flock, and is there like a as a Google, are you determined to kind of like work on Flutter like individually, or like would there be like any chance that could like collaborate with the flock, movement together like in the future?
Yeah, okay. I think I see where you're going here. I think what you're asking around is, do we see Flutter being specifically a Google project, or do we see it moving into some place where it's under a foundation at some point, like the Linux Foundation or any of those things? That's something that we've noodled around with a lot, but I think at the end of the day, we need to figure out how the community can kick off a foundation. I know the underlying fear is that, I don't want to put a lot of my effort into a Google product that they may just throw into the graveyard like everything else down the line. That's the real question people want to ask. So I understand that. I was an AngularJS user before they threw that in the trash, and it really burned me. But I think Flock is maybe one of those steps towards people thinking more about, can we get a foundation? I don't think Google or Flutter leadership is against building a foundation. But if we're going to do it, we need to do it right. We need to have it spread out. We don't want it to be Google controlled. Even if, does anybody here know Ian Hixie on GitHub or anything? He's one of the creators of Flutter, and his whole thing was to make it as open source as possible. Granted, that makes my job very difficult sometimes, but it's the spirit of keeping it open source that keeps it alive and keeps us away from running into things like it just disappearing. So no, I do not have a definite answer right now, but yes, it's something that we would love to have a foundation around Flutter.
Thank you very much.
Dart 2. Oh, we need the translators? I've been gone for a long time. My Japanese is really bad now. Hello.
Okay, thank you for your talk. And I want to ask about the macro, dot macros, and I will provide my talk tomorrow about dot macros. And I'm wondering if there is any information about the schedule of the timeline about the macros.
That's a good question. I think the short answer here is no, there's no schedule. The real answer is when it feels right and when everything's done. If there's one thing that we don't want to do is release something half-baked. But also, we have this proposal open. A lot of the things, you can see the status of macros by following Dart on GitHub. We don't have anything hidden. We're not like gonna sneak it out and throw it behind our backs. It's out there. You can watch the commits, you can look at the language proposals and everything on the Dart language repo. Macros is very interesting. I have some things that I want to build with Dart macros, but I'm waiting for the team to give me the full implementation before I start diving deep into it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Here comes the next version of Flutter. Maybe what's new Flutter will come every 3 months, and maybe this month is a month, right?
So you want to know when the next Flutter release will be? Yeah, so when I joined the Flutter team, one of the things that I wanted was predictable releases. So I try to make them as predictable as possible, which is why over the last couple of years they've been coming out quarterly. Yes, you will get a Q4 release coming soon. I've already prepared it in the background, and it will be coming soon. And that will be Flutter 3.27, by the way. Any more questions?
Do you have a plan as another language like Android Kotlin, Flutter, with
That's interesting. So you're asking if we have another plan to bring Flutter to other languages like Kotlin, or so you can have Kotlin built, you can write Flutter with Kotlin, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is there is an internal doc, and maybe this is something that I could get them to release for a blog. They did consider having other languages for Flutter. So when Flutter was first built, Dart wasn't the first choice. There were other languages that they thought about and eventually came back around to Dart. So there is an entire paper that says, what if Flutter was written in Kotlin? And I'll look into getting that published somehow. Got a couple more minutes, right? All right, any more questions? I love answering questions. Let me connect, let me talk to the community here.
Hello. Thank you speaking. Which state management package for Flutter do you like the most?
Oh gosh, of course you asked the state management act. I think the answer I'm supposed to say is that, oh, Flutter provides state management. We use provider, so you should use provider. And I use RiverPod. All right, so yeah, RiverPod is what I use for state management.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question. What do you think about Japanese Flutter community, specifically in Japan? What's different from other countries' Flutter community, do you think?
Now that's difficult for me to answer because I'm still new to the Japanese Flutter community. I've been trying to get the team to come out and interact with the Japanese community a lot more. But I think my experience with the Japanese development community came from when I was going to Ruby and Ruby on Rails meetups right here in Tokyo and Yokohama. It was extremely friendly. They were extremely helpful. They helped answer all my newbie questions. They would guide me, mentor me. If the Flutter community is anything like that, then it's one of the best in the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Time check, time check. It looks like we have 2 more minutes. Okay. Do we have a last question? All right, well, thank you everybody for your time. Oh, go ahead.
What does Google think about personal developer? You have to have more testers, or we have to show my address, right, to release the Android software.
Yeah, that's
It's quite hard for Japanese, but
yeah, that's tough, and that's not a Flutter decision. That's a Google Play decision and regulations decision, and it's tough. It's not just affecting you; it's affecting a lot of people, especially the smaller developers that don't have the capacity to get everything fixed and perfect. Yeah, so, apologies for that, but I'll see what we can do for that. But that's not on us for that decision. All right, going once, going twice. All right, thank you everybody for your time and your kindness. I appreciate it. Bye y'all.